Dawson's Rambles.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here, coming at you today with a Dawson's Ramble on a Power Rangers related topic, which is related to the network it currently airs on as of this recording, which is Nickelodeon, and a hot take right here, why I think it's not as bad as people say, while I certainly don't think it's perfect, and I will talk about that as well. But it's a topic that's been discussed almost ad nauseum since Samurai, basically, ever since they did, which I still think was their worst move, which is taking the Samurai pilot and airing it 25 years after the series started. That was so weird. That was still one of the stupidest things they did. It started things off on a very awkward foot to a very awkward era. So Nick isn't perfect. There's lots of things I have problems with, but I think it gets overblown. But I want to say at the beginning of this video too, I don't know everything. In fact, I understand nothing. You know, I feel like when this topic comes up, everybody's suddenly a brilliant TV executive that knows exactly what needs to be done. This is just my opinion based off my observations. I don't know anything about behind the scenes stuff. I don't know what truly would be better, what's working, what not. I just wanted to sound my opinion off about it, you know, because like I said, people often get really high up on there in this argument like, well, this and this and this. Like, I'm not saying this is right. I'm just saying this is my thoughts. So I'm sure people will still be mad at me, even though I always have a disclaimer at the beginning of the videos to avoid the angry comments. We're still gonna get them. So let's start with why they're not perfect. I don't think Nick is the perfect fit. It's not my ideal situation. My ideal situation for Power Rangers in terms of airing would be a streaming service. I've brought this up before in other videos on Twitter, and people always tell me like why I'm wrong about that too. I guess that's the internet. Everyone will tell you I'm wrong about everything. But that's where we are nowadays. I feel like streaming on Netflix or Hulu or something would get a lot more eyeballs on it. It makes it a lot easier to watch. It just makes more sense. I just think that's the primary place to get it because kids TV is different than it was when I was younger or you were younger. If you're kind of a 90s, early 2000s kid from the early era of PR where like Saturday morning cartoons, I do the quotation marks because it eventually evolved, but you know what I mean, where like the children's new television block was like a thing. There would be one day or a couple of days where it would be like, yes, all the new shows are on, and it was really exciting. And there's obviously tons of kids shows now, but they're way more accessible all over the place, and it's not about like, let's get up Saturday morning and watch it. It's like, okay, let's just stream whatever, wherever, and that's kind of, it's different. So I think, for me personally, that's why I wanted to start this off by saying I don't think Nick is perfect. I personally think we should move towards a streaming platform. But I digress. I'm not saying in this video that I think Nick is the home for PR, but just why it's not the worst option. But I wanted to start off by saying that's not my ideal situation. For me, it would be streaming. And I say that because there's not a lot of good options. I mean, Disney Channel obviously wouldn't be an option anymore since Disney doesn't own Power Rangers anymore. That used to be easily solved. Honestly, if Disney still owned it, Disney XD would be kind of a perfect home for it. Cartoon Network really isn't an option. I don't know if they have anything live action on right now, but I haven't seen them dip into it very often over recent years, and when they do, it never really sticks. I mean, airing-wise and eyeball-wise, it could be a decent option objectively, but I just don't see them going for a live action show. Now, if PR goes animated, I wouldn't be mad at it being on Cartoon Network, who knows? Again, Cartoon Network and Nick, neither of them are perfect, but they are the two most prominent kids networks that are not Disney. But as of right now, just talking about the live action one, I don't think it would happen. Lots of people bring up the Discovery or the Hub or whatever it is, and I know Hasbro might be involved in that somehow, I don't remember. Do they own it? I don't know. See, I don't know everything. But regardless, that seems like a bad take to me. I mean, that feels like, or a bad option rather, that feels like saying, I don't want Power Rangers toys to be carried at Target and Walmart anymore. I want them only at Big Lots. Like, nobody knows about that network. That feels, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's got the biggest numbers ever. Again, I don't know everything. From my perspective, that would feel like a downgrade. I think that Nick is a very medium option. There's lots of downsides. What are the downsides? Well, it airs at a very early time slot. I think it could have a little bit more of a prime time slot. They don't promote it very well. They do the bare minimum promotion. And then they don't do enough reruns. I would say recently, every now and then I'll check the cable guide to see what the rerun stitch is like. I'm sorry, I just used the word stitch. Out of curiosity, and they have been a little bit better about it recently, but I still think they could stand to air it more in case you miss it, especially since we don't have very many good options to catch it if you missed it until it goes on Netflix. So that's the areas that I think are the worst for me and perfect, is the promotion, the airings, and the exact time slot. Some people would say the hiatus, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't care too much about that. I've always been kind of weird about that. But here's the thing. If you follow any other kids shows, their schedules are absolutely erratic. Like, it's kind of insane, especially compared to the way it used to be. There's a few that I follow on my DVR, like some of the Marvel shows, like Ben 10, the Big Hero 6 animated series, whatever. You name it. Their schedules are absolutely random. It'll be like, okay, we're gonna air one episode and then take 10 years off and then air 3 more, and then we're gonna take 1 week off and air a 2-parter, and then we're gonna take 15 more years off and then air 5 more episodes, but it's gonna be on Earth 2 next century. It's absolutely random. If we didn't live in the era of DVRs, I have no idea how kids keep up with these shows. Like, because we have DVRs and streaming, that obviously makes it easier, but I appreciate that Nick gives Power Rangers a consistent schedule. We know roughly the same time of year will come back. It's not, I don't think any TV show is absolutely exact, or at least most of them aren't exactly like day and date, but roughly the same month period it starts, ends before the hiatus, starts again, ends. It's always consistent. I always know when to look out for it. I don't have to just say, oh hey, that suddenly popped up on my DVR after it hasn't recorded in 13 years. I appreciate that consistency. And the thing is that that's a good way to get people to remember the show, but they don't promote it enough. I think if they promoted it better, that's a positive, because then like all of a sudden you're not watching it and it disappears and you forget about it. If they have a consistent schedule, you know, like, oh, okay, this has been going on for 8 years. This just stopped in May or April or whatever. It's going to be coming back in like October. So I think that's a positive, and actually very rare even amongst Nick itself to have such a consistent schedule. And I think that's a very underrated aspect of it. And I think that's, you know, a decent thing. And it's kind of surprising that even though the time slot slipped it a little bit, it's been a little bit earlier, it's been roughly the same schedule for almost 10 years now, and I think that's a good thing. Now, another thing is the hiatus, and that tends to always get people like upset. And I personally don't care too much because I watch so much other TV that literally every other show's better, so I have so much other stuff to watch. That's just the way TV works. I'm used to everything going on hiatus during the summer, so it doesn't bother me. And I get people's points that, the main points that are made are, you know, it's such a long hiatus, a little bit longer than normal summer hiatus, so people forget about it, and it's awkward because it's in the middle of the season, which are both fair points, but I think both of those could be resolved by working with things better. In terms of the longer hiatus, they just need to make it better promoted. Like, there are things that take even longer hiatuses, and this is Nick's fault in terms of the way they schedule it, but it's just as much Power Rangers' fault for not structuring it right. Because it is a little more awkward to have a season where it's got the hiatus in the middle of the season rather than between seasons, because usually most TV starts in the fall, little break for Christmas, and then they air through May, give or take a few weeks, and then you have a summer hiatus before the new season. Again, that would be a more ideal approach for PR. If I could change it, I would. But it's also not unheard of for a Power Ranger season, a TV show to split in the middle of the season. There's many shows that I watch or know of that have split seasons, and they'll call it like 3A and 3B, and they'll have a decent chunk hiatus in between the two. So Power Rangers needed to account for that. Like, make the 8th episode, which is usually when we leave off, significant. Make it such a good episode or a cliffhanger that it gets people wanting to come back. I think there's been some that have felt like that to a degree, but nothing like it should be, and I think that could help in conjunction with Power Rangers creating an episode that feels like a mid-season finale, so that when you're watching it, you feel like this is the mid-season finale, can't wait to find out what's next. And then a month before it comes back, you start promoting the hell out of it. And that is usually what most networks do, and it works. And that kind of takes away the worry about the hiatus taking away interest, because the last episode left you wanting more. It kind of left on a ... so it's clear that you're gonna have to wait. And they promoted it a month before, so then you're gearing up about it. But usually they kind of, like Beast Morphers. The mid-season finale for season 1 felt just like an episode. It felt like one of those things where like a kid or anybody's gonna watch it and be like, where to go next week? Like, why isn't it on? That didn't feel like a mid-season finale, and they'll just keep saying that until they forget it comes back. So it can be a problem, but I don't think the hiatus in and of itself existing is the problem. It's the way both of them are handling it in terms of promotion and narrative, and I think that that can be fixed. Make it feel like a mid-season finale to a degree, because a hiatus in the middle is a normal thing, and it's not that unheard of. And again, I appreciate the schedule, but my point is that Nick is a very mediocre home, to wrap this up. But people always make it seem like Nick is the sole cause for all of PR's problems, but honestly it could be much worse. They do give us a consistent airing schedule and have kept the series going for all these years at the same consistent time. It's not perfect, but I think there could be better homes, but I think there could be worse homes, and I think it's kind of in the middle, and I think it gets a lot of heat unnecessarily, especially in the early days where I feel like it was blamed for the childlike writing. But even if you watch any other show on Nick, even the worst ones, none of them were handled with kid gloves like PR, and that was a lot to do with Saban. So I just wanted to get that out there, kind of a little bit of a rant ramble. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Nick, it's not my favorite thing, but I think it's like become the boogeyman to blame everything on it. And it's honestly more consistent than you think. But reluctantly, I'm going to ask, what do you guys think? I encourage you to try to say something positive about the situation, because I feel like this comment section is going to be filled with a lot of the usual hate comments about it. I think we need to go in brighter and different directions for Power Rangers on all fronts. But just speaking of this era, we've aired on it, I think that they've given us a more consistent home than we're given credit for, but they could certainly do better. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications from my videos. Till next time, Dawson Rider, signing out.